This video is going to be a little bit of a divergence from my usual ones. Normally this is an astrology channel, but sometimes I get questions about things that are more tangentially related. And I've shared some dreams on here, especially if they track with some of the new moons and full moons, or just give kind of a general read of what's going on in the world right now. But the truth is, I do a whole lot more with dreams. I've always been a huge dreamer, and I do a lot of dream interpretation as part of my work. A lot of times people will share their dreams with me, or I have a dream the night before a session with someone, a new person. I don't know anything about them, but I have this dream. I have no idea what the dream means, and then I get on the phone with them and they start talking and I realize, oh, hold up, I have a dream for you. And oftentimes that dream will kind of share something that maybe we wouldn't have been able to get at as directly as having that dream kind of flag it as something to talk about. So I've used dreams. I have a lot of precognitive dreams, and just in general, I find that dream work is one of the most powerful ways to really work with energies to kind of get a heads up of what's going on in that subconscious mind, because it's always working, right? Your subconscious mind is always working, whether it's working for you or against you. And so I do get quite a few questions from people. How can I dream more? I never remember my dreams, or I have nightmares, or I'm so busy with my dreams that I never feel like I get any rest. And so I just thought, all right, I'll take a little time to do a different kind of video, because dream work really does inform my astrology a lot. I will often have dreams about certain Sabian symbols, and then that kind of flags me, oh, look this up. And then there's a whole gloss of information. Also, it kind of gives me a heads up on what do I interpret with the energies, because anytime that you've got things happening in the sky, there's always different levels that can be expressed, and also different levels of awareness. And so this is a video for people who are wanting to deepen their own dream work, also people that are kind of interested in resources for how do I kind of encourage a little more input from dreams, and just kind of general answering questions that I continue to get over the years. So one of the very simplest ways, and I'm not the only one to say this, but one of the simplest ways to encourage yourself to have more dreams is to keep a dream journal. And I used to do this with, handwritten, and there are advantages to that. You kind of think differently when you're working with just one hand, but so many of us are, we're on the computer, we're typing things, and especially if you have a lot of dreams, there is some advantage to recording those dreams on the computer. For me, I keep a dream file each year. So I have like 2023 dreams, 2024 dreams, and I title them very specifically so that the major symbols that show up in that dream can be easily searched. So that's a technique that I developed over the years, but I find it can be very helpful because while, yes, there are dream dictionaries online and you can find out a lot of material that way, you have your own kind of dream lexicon, right? Like you've got your own dream vocabulary that you start to notice by recording your dreams. And it may be that, you dream about a baseball field and you don't play baseball, this is a random dream symbol, but then maybe 3 months later, you have another dream about a baseball field. And it's really handy to be able to go back into the computer, just do a quick search and pull up that other dream. And you may find actually that gives a lot of insight into what's happening right now in your life. And so without recording, oftentimes we're going to forget the most important details because we don't know what they are. There's the things that really jump out at us where we're like, oh yeah, I had a dream about such and such. But oftentimes it's those little seemingly random details that are just thrown in, kind of the little kooky things that turn out to be part of your evolving dream vocabulary. And as time goes on, they start to link your dreams together. And yeah, you can look it up in a dream dictionary, but you're also going to find, oh, okay, this means this in my life. So for example, if I have a big change coming up in my life, it is almost always that I will have some kind of a dream about rearranging furniture. And that has just become like shorthand of my subconscious giving me a heads up saying, hey, big change is coming because, you're moving your dresser or you're doing things. I've had a lot of dreams about bathrooms, and I know other people do too. Sometimes they're really disgusting, right? Like, ooh, public bathrooms, and they're really gross. For other people, it's like, oh, I was in this amazing, pristine bathroom, or I was having my bathroom remodeled. Well, in my life, and I know for a lot of people, the bathroom, it's a private place. And so oftentimes when a bathroom dream shows up in your life, it can also indicate some kind of internal process that may be occurring, or some kind of very private internal feeling that you're having about the people in your life or the situations in your life that maybe is not so public even to you. And so these are just examples, but some of these can be real heads up so that you can kind of get a jump on some of the changes. You can get a jump on, what's roiling around there in the subconscious. What are you dissatisfied with? What are you afraid of? And you can kind of navigate life with a bit of a heads up. So keeping a dream journal, having very descriptive titles can be helpful. I really love Robert Moss has done tons of work on dreams, wonderful writer on dreams. I especially like his book, Dreaming True. And it's about using your dreams to create a better future. But he has this idea of being a dream journalist. And so it's not just, oh, I keep a dream journal, but also kind of like old school journalism where you're trying to get to the truth. You're trying to like really get to those nitty gritty details of what is going on. What is this dream trying to tell me? So if you can approach it like being a dream journalist, I think it allows you to go deeper and have maybe more of a place of curiosity. And oftentimes that allows more information to come through. It's kind of like developing a friendship with your subconscious. If you were just meeting someone that you hadn't met before or that you only knew very casually, it's hard to trust that person with your life, right? It's hard to trust that person with your big, big decisions or your deep emotional secrets. But your subconscious knows all that stuff anyway. You just maybe don't know your subconscious that well. And so when you sit down and you actually engage your dreams, it's like you're becoming friends with a deeper part of yourself. And that part can bring up weird things. It can bring up a different side of you that is maybe longing to be expressed, but doesn't have a place in your life right now. So regular dream journaling practice, it serves several functions with the recording of it, but also with kind of like developing like a pen pal relationship with your subconscious. That's going to help you to get more out of it. Another thing that I like to do, and this is just kind of a little ditty that I have. So I think it's Robert Moss who said, what do I need to know? What do I need to do? So that's a good question to ask your subconscious before you go to bed. But I like to keep it a little lighter. And so I will often say, what do I need to know or do? Make it helpful, obvious, and true. And I like that because it rhymes. So it's almost like a little spell, like you're casting a spell on your subconscious. But what do I need to know or do? Make it helpful. Because if it's not helpful, what's the point? Make it obvious, because I don't really want to spend all day trying to figure out what that dream meant. I mean, sometimes you have a really weird one and it sticks with you for years, but it's nice if it's, helpful and if it's obvious. Dream language, it's kind of like when you have symptoms in your body. Your body's screaming for your attention. You don't get the symptoms in your body if your subconscious hasn't been going, knock, 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 I have a message for you. We often run away from that, but dreams are another way to engage that kind of hidden energy. So you want it to be obvious. You want it to be kind of screaming for your attention so that you're going to get more out of it. And then I like it to be true because I don't want my dreams to mess around with me. I use them for a lot of guidance. For that reason, I personally am not a fan of lucid dreaming. I know a lot of people are, and if that works for you, great. For me, since I was a little kid, I've always really used my dreams as like the spotlight or the lighthouse, on the emotional sea or the confusion of life. The dream, it gives that light, it gives that kind of pulse of information. And so I don't want my busy Gemini brain going all over the place trying to figure everything out. I'm trying to get a different perspective. And so even though I've had a few experiences with lucid dreaming, it's not something that I actually cultivate because I just feel like the subconscious is so much more vast than our little ego, our little conscious mind. And so while lucid dreaming can be really helpful in cases of nightmares, or if, especially with little children that are being terrorized in their dreams, a lot of times going lucid and exerting your power and your control, there's definitely a place for that. But if you're trying to really engage the subconscious energies, especially if you've got like a Pluto transit or a Neptune transit or, some of these outer planets where it is weird information, they're meant to disrupt our status quo. I would rather be engaging Pluto energy and Neptune energy in the dream realm and having a little more influence in my waking life than, have all this confusion and delusion and illusion of Neptune show up in my waking life, or have like all the shadow, scary stuff erupt in my personal life. I mean, sometimes life happens and that kind of stuff is going to go anyway. But I just find that the dreams are actually a very effective heads up. They can be a really nice roadmap, like here be dragons, like, proceed with caution. But also it can, Pluto is the sign of the unconscious. It's the sign of the shadow realm, kind of like the underworld. And so if you invite that stuff up, then, you could become friends with the monsters. Maybe they won't eat you. Same thing with Neptune. Neptune also very connected with the unconscious, more like the dream realm. We often think more of Neptune with dreams, but it can be helpful to just tap into that on like a higher level where you're purposely engaging the energies. So I mentioned a little bit about nightmares. I know that can be very troubling. I actually, not like I like nightmares, but I find them valuable because, again, they alert us to inner conflict. They alert us to sometimes a really potent warning. I've had warnings that actually my dreams have saved my life on a number of occasions. There was one time in particular, I was set to be traveling and actually started having horrible nightmares for weeks ahead of time about being raped and murdered. And for personal reasons, I didn't want to cancel the trip, but I mean, I don't dream like that normally. So it caught my attention enough that I did alter travel plans. I was told, don't take a cab under any circumstances. You have to trust your intuition in the moment. And long story short, when I returned from that trip, I had a whole bunch of emails from a good friend of mine who was just absolutely beside herself with worry for me. I hadn't told her any of the dreams because I didn't really tell anybody the dreams at the time because I knew everybody was going to say, well, don't make the trip. But I needed to make the trip. I wanted to make the trip. I just didn't want to be raped and murdered. And what ended up happening was we got, this was my ex-husband now, but we were in Sedona at the time. And as soon as I got home, I got all these emails from a friend of mine who was like, what's going on with you? I'm so worried. Let me know you're okay. And then the fax machine started going off, and it was from the Reno Police Department faxing us of a missing person. And she looked just like me. And it ended up like a cab driver was the person of interest. And I had been having dreams like under no circumstances should you get in a cab. And just, I don't know how the Reno Police Department got our Sedona fax number. But 2 weeks later, we got a same kind of thing from the Reno Police Department saying that this woman had been found and she was murdered. And I mean, it wasn't a good story, but at the same time, it really, underscored the protective power of dreams and just the ability to kind of reposition yourself so that you are not in harm's way. So nightmares can be valuable. I've also found that they can be valuable not just because there's literally something happening in your life, but figuratively. A lot of times dream language is really exaggerated. And so if you're, getting raped and murdered in a dream, it may not mean a literal event like that is coming up in your life, but it could alert you to certain really toxic dynamics or ways that your inner self is maybe not feeling safe or not able to express itself, or that, maybe you're having a really rough Pluto transit and there's some part of you that does need to die. There may be some part of you that is being forced to take an early exit so that you can live more fully. So these are all things that can be explored within dreams. You can explore them in other ways through therapy. You can find a lot about it in an astrological chart and transits. And in fact, if you are into astrology at all, I find that it's really helpful when you have a big dream, right? We have our little noisy dreams where it's just kind of processing some of the other day's events. Or in my case, oftentimes it's processing events that are just about to occur. So like a lot of symbols will show up and I'm like, what the heck was that? And then my husband and I will be watching a movie later that night and, there's the symbols. And so sometimes it's that, it's just noise. But other times there is a depth that's trying to come up. And I just find that it can be helpful if we voluntarily engage with that. And I find oftentimes for those really big dreams where you're like, wow, that is a message and I can't ignore it. A lot of times the moon is passing over your Mercury, or Mercury is crossing over your moon. So the moon it's part of your intuition. It's our more receptive side, and Mercury is the messenger. And so a lot of times when those two interact, I just find that oftentimes people's dreams come up. But also if you notice, Mercury was crossing over your Chiron and you had this really intense dream, well, that's a clue that there's some kind of healing that's trying to occur through that dream. And so just, some heads up in terms of the astrology of dreams. A lot of times people that have a fourth house Neptune will be extremely big dreamers. I have that. Like Joan of Arc had that. There's a lot of people that have that fourth house Neptune. It can make it that your home is more in that dreamland. Also 12th house Neptune. So these water houses, 8th house Neptune can also be very receptive to that because the watery houses do tend to be more favorable to Neptune regardless of which sign you have it in. If you have a 12th house Neptune, you're much more tapped into the collective unconscious than a lot of people are. But also if you have, say, Jupiter conjunct Moon in your natal chart, that expands more of your receptivity. It often creates a very empathic personality. Same thing with Neptune conjunct Moon, or even Neptune conjunct Sun, or in some kind of tight aspect with it. It just it brings that dreamy quality and thins the veils between the different worlds. But anybody can dream. I mean, you're dreaming whether you know it or not. A lot of times people get really upset if they're not remembering a dream. Having the dream journal, it does kind of cultivate a habit. It does it's like being friendly to your subconscious. It's like, hey, I'm interested. How are you doing today? What's happening? Oh, and then you're listening to them. So again, with that idea of a friendship developing and a kind of intimacy developing, but it's also something that you're able to really feel into the cosmic soup, feel into the waters that are out there. And it can be great for creativity. It can be really great for if you've got difficult transits that you know are coming up or that you are currently in. It can really just help you to navigate that easier, because a lot of times our dreams are more precognitive than we realize, and they are, feeling it out there and trying to get a sense of which is the opening, which is the pathway that's going to feel better. You can do that kind of 7 times faster in dream time. You can experiment with things. You can try on different flavors of decisions that you're thinking about. You can also ask for guidance on relationships. And what I find is helpful too is not just what do you wake up with in terms of dream recall, but also, is there a song lyric? Is there some other message or like an intuitive hit of, oh, I need to call this person? Because a lot of times when you're not remembering a dream, it just means it's not ready to come up to the subconscious yet. It's in the unconscious realm. And so you can keep asking, and then, for a lot of people, they forget what question they asked. And so it can be helpful, maybe have questions written on like a 3x5 card or something where you put the question out before you fall asleep. And then when you wake up and you have the dream, you run it through the gloss as an answer to whatever that question was. And so again, you'll learn your own dream vocabulary. And if you're really not into dreams, it's okay. I get so many questions about this, and I mine that unconscious realm so much that I just thought, give a few tips here. If this is something that you're interested in and you have topics that are not exactly astrology, but maybe tangentially related to it, or, more consciousness raising type questions, there's a lot more that I do than just astrology. So I like giving the forecast to give people a heads up. That's a little more universal of a heads up than a personal one-on-one coaching session or, chart reading or something like that. But I'm always curious about people's recurring dreams, and just, let me know in the comments if you have found that dream work is important to you, or if you have tips for other people on enhancing dream recall. I know there's some herbs like mugwort can make you have like really vivid dreams, but it can be a little tricky on your liver. So anytime that you're using sleep aids like melatonin can give you way more vivid dreams. But again, not everybody tolerates those things well. So you want to, find what works for you. But I just wanted to give kind of a general, blanket answer of some of the most common questions that I get, and list some of the resources that I find are helpful. So anything by Robert Moss, if you are not a dreamer and you read a Robert Moss book, you will guaranteed you'll have more synchronicities start happening in your life, and you'll start having a better dream recall. And just another side note tip is, especially if you're not a big nighttime dreamer, but you are someone that would like to engage more with that kind of symbolic realm, approach life as though it were a dream. And so if something crosses your path, like an unusual animal crosses your path, consider, if I had a dream like that and an aardvark came into my dream, that would be pretty astonishing. Like, what does an aardvark mean? And kind of, do a little research on whatever that animal is. You can look up the shamanic meaning of those animals, also the dream meaning of those animals, even if it occurred in waking life. Because the more that you start engaging with the subconscious realm, the more you realize that it's a lot more fluid than we think it is. And life can become so much more magical when we invite some of those qualities in, and reality can become much more malleable as well. So those are just some of my favorite off-the-cuff tips, but I would love to hear from you below. And again, let me know if this is not something that you're interested in at all. I can stick just to the astrology videos, but I know some people are curious about these other things and maybe less interested in the astrology. So just kind of experimenting here. So let me know what you think. And until next time, you guys have sweet dreams. Bye.